A journey to Syria. My most memorable experience was in July 2006, when we had to flee Lebanon and go to Syria to go back home to Dubai. It was war. We had been in Dubai for almost a year, and we were all homesick and wanted to go back to Lebanon for our summer vacation. My father was hesitant, unlike my mother, 1-year-old brother, and I. Needless to say, I was very excited and looking forward to spending time in Beirut with my family and friends. I have missed the life I had there. The day finally came and we were packed and ready to go to the airport. The trip was uneventful, but our excitement was mounting. When we arrived at Rafiq Hariri International Airport, after a 3-hour flight, we were met by my grandparents' driver who took us directly to their house. On the way we passed many familiar streets, and there were pictures of different political figures. Beirut was dirtier than I remember, or maybe just because I was living in Dubai. I could see the difference. We were greeted warmly by my grandparents. My uncles were also there. In Lebanon, family is the most important thing. My grandmother had prepared all of the usual, yet delicious traditional Lebanese food. Waraq anab, wukusa, labneh, tabbouleh and hummus. A week had passed by already, and my dad was called back for work. He had to leave us and go back to Dubai with the promise that he will be back the next day. I remember him leaving in the morning, while we had plans to spend the day at the beach with my old school friends. We did not go. Apparently the airport was shut down right after my dad's plane took off. My mom was tense. I asked her, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" She replied,
"Everything is okay, Habibi, don't worry."
But I was worried. Even though she was denying it, I knew something was wrong. That night I could hear bombs from far away, and I overheard my mom's conversation with my grandparents. I knew that the war had started. Dad was on the phone with my mom all the time. He was very worried and wanted us out of Lebanon and back in Dubai as soon as possible. I could see how everyone was scared. The TV was always on, and all the Lebanese channels were giving updates about the situation, showing footage of destroyed roads and buildings. My dad's calls were more frequent. I felt him panicking. When he talked to me, he was very calm and was always telling me not to worry, that everything will be okay and that we will be back home in no time. He promised that just as soon as the airport opens, he will be on the first flight to Lebanon to get us out. After about a week, the situation was getting worse. The airport was still closed. The bombs were continuous in many parts of Lebanon and some parts of Beirut, where we were. I overheard my mom discussing with my dad. She asked him,
"شو بنعمل?"
"What do we do?" He told her,
ايه اللي بتشوفيه حبيبتي؟
"It's your call." As they discussed, there were 3 options. Either wait until the airport opens, by sea to Cyprus, or by car to Syria. They finally decided on Syria. We would get a car to take us across the border, and from there we would take a plane back to Dubai. All our family was against this. My grandparents, my uncles, everyone. They said it was too dangerous, that we can all move to the mountains where we will be safe. My mother did not listen to anyone. She called the taxi company and booked a car. Her cousin Rena was in the same situation. She came from the United States to Lebanon with her 2 children, Salim and Raya. She was also desperate to go back. When she heard about my mom's plan, she asked her if they can come along. Of course it was no problem. The day arrived. It was Monday, and we were all meeting at my uncle's house. There was so much tension and worry while waiting for the car. The taxi arrived, and it was time to say goodbye. There were lots of tears and kisses. It felt like we were never going to see them again. The taxi driver was very chatty, but my mom and Rana were very quiet. We drove for approximately 30 minutes when we heard a very loud noise. They had bombed part of the road we were on. The driver turned around immediately and raced back home. He said that he would not take the risk and that it was too dangerous to travel. My mom was very disappointed but could not argue with him. So we went back to my uncle's house where everyone was waiting nervously. After a lot of arguing, shouting and crying, my mom ordered another taxi. She was determined to go to Syria. All I remembered are the sad faces of my family. This time when the car arrived, there were no hugs, just prayers. We were all squeezed together, and my mom and her cousin tried their best to entertain the kids, but everyone could feel the tension in the car. There were bombs all around and the radio station were giving the latest updates of which areas to avoid. The taxi drove on dirt roads, very dangerous but not as exposed as the main roads. These roads are often used by trucks to transport weapons and therefore were a target. I did not realize how dangerous our journey was until much later. Apparently, my mom got a phone call from a distant relative who was an officer in the army, advising her not to pass through the Sheikha tunnel in Tripoli because he just received information that they will soon blow it up. She did not inform the driver or Rena. I asked her later, why? She said,
Doesn't matter. I got you out, safe and sound.
and she smiled. Most from the journey are the stops that we made. We passed through many small cities and villages. We talked to so many people, young and old. Everyone was so hospitable. What should have taken 3 hours took 9 hours, but we were finally at the Syrian border. We were shocked by what we saw. Cars, buses, and lots of people. There was so much chaos, with civilians arguing with the soldiers, kids sitting on the roads, men carrying bags. It was shocking. The second the car stopped, my mom jumped out of the car and went to find the soldier. She bribed one to help us cross the border quickly. It wasn't very quick, but we did cross it finally. We were in Syria. We were safe and we were on our way back home to Dubai.